When I was having the heart attack, it was coming on slow from 9:30 in the morning, and I guess probably by I walked up to a shopping plaza and was in Shoppers Drug Mart of all places, and started sweating and feeling the pain started getting intense, and banged my chest a few times, and that didn't seem to help. Just made the record skip maybe. So I felt I was at the cashier with my stuff, and I felt something's wrong. I got to get out of here. I was 500 meters from the hospital, or I mean, I don't know. I was a city block and a half, whatever that is. And but I was inside the Shoppers, and I took my stuff and I put it back on the shelves where it belonged, and then I hastened out of there, like whipped right past everybody. I decided rather than alarm everybody and have them call 911 and etc. I gauged that I could walk to the hospital probably before an ambulance would get to me, or at least in the same amount of time. Although, if in the ambulance, it would have been a lot less stress on me to add to the problem. So I did. I walked out, and there's a little passageway that divides part of the shopping center that you go through to the back. So I went through it, and I walked out, and I started gasping, like holding deep breaths, pushing it, taking the huge breaths like that, and using my solar plexus to expand and draw it right down deep so to get as maximum oxygen that I could. And I was pounding my chest, as I went up the sidewalk, and a couple was walking towards me, and they saw me doing this, and they were they were trapped because there was a construction fence on the right-hand side of the sidewalk and all the traffic on the other side of the sidewalk. We had to bypass each other. I did step off the curb and go around them, but ironically, it should have been them stepping off the curb for me. And no concern other than fear for, some wayward drug addict was crossing their path. So anyway, that's about half a block. So I got to the intersection, almost 100 feet from the intersection where the hospital sits on the kitty corner, and the light changed, and I didn't know whether I was going to meet a light or not. And so I just walked right across the street. I wasn't getting the oxygen from my blood and my thinking and everything else. I was getting a little bit disoriented, but I knew I was making a beeline for the hospital. And I walked right in front of traffic. Cars stopped, honked their horn at me, and let me go. And I'm going to tell you that at that hospital where I was in Chilliwack, that area is inundated with addicts, and there have more than an average share of drug-related problems in the system. So I get to the parking, and when you arrive from that perspective, you have to go around to the left and up, another 100 meters to the front entrance and the emergency entrance. But at the back is the ambulance entrance. And that was only about 50 yards away from me at the most, maybe 40, 50 yards. Anyway, I fell down in the parking lot because I was getting pretty dizzy and I was gasping. And I got up to that doorway. Well, actually, I dragged myself along the wall, keeping myself up, scrapes all over my shoulder on the concrete wall. I got there, and, there's like a keypad, and there's a double, sliding doors, as you would imagine, a double sealed. So I got there and I started pounding on the thing, and I could see nurses, I could see people walking around in there, and one of them kind of looks at me and just ignores me. And I'm wearing a ball cap, a baggy t-shirt, and long pants, and these same shoes I use for walking. And I was literally pounding on the door as much as I could, and I was getting so I couldn't even pound on the door. I started sliding down. It's right out of a a horror movie, like somebody just gunned me down and from behind, and dragging down the window, and I remember it even squeaked, and a nurse comes there, and I use the term nurse loosely because she was cold-blooded with an attitude, obviously about homeless people and drug addiction, etc., that should have her fired from her job. So she comes through the first set of double doors and stands inside the second one. I'm sliding down, and I'm trying. I can't even speak. I'm saying, having heart attack, and she looked at me. She's going, "Go around, go around," and she kept saying, "Go around." I go, and another one came and stood beside her, and they're looking at me and they're talking about me, and she's saying, "You have to go around." And I remember it quite clearly, oddly enough, because I was losing it. I was starting to black out, and I just couldn't hold up anymore. I just fell down. I said, I gave up. And the other one, so she opened the door, and grabbed me, and she kind of took over and told the other one to get a wheelchair. She'd come back, saunters back with a wheelchair, and they got me in the wheelchair. And got me up. I guess I felt some hope, and I was able to communicate. I said, I'm having a heart attack. And so emergency is right there, right? So they wheeled me around the corner, shut me onto a bed, and they got me off. They wanted my check-in, and the one other nurse. There's more people in Merge involved, and they're obviously a lot more into attending to the medical issue for this person. And so they, one of them says, do you have your ID? I said, yeah, I have my ID. I give her, I said, it's in my pants. I couldn't do anything. They're pulling my shirt off and all kinds of stuff and getting me up onto the bed. So she went and registered me in and stuff like that. And they got me settled with, a bunch of aspirins and a bunch of nitro, like several squirts. Oh, Jesus, I got a bear of a headache. So they gave me Tylenol for that. So basically, they gave me, the nitro to expand the capillaries. They gave me the aspirin to thin the blood, and they gave me the Tylenol to take care of the headache all that creates. So they got me stabilized and whatnot. And the nurse that gave me such a hard time and watched me dying on the sidewalk, she's working in a different part of the unit, and maybe not even in the unit, because she wasn't working as an emergency nurse. She had the nerve to come over to my bed, and I know why she did it when she did it, because it was lunch break. There was only 2 nurses and a doctor, and she comes up and she said to me, "You're new here, aren't you?" So I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Oh, because the emergency entrance is at the front of the hospital, and you came to the ambulance entrance, and you can't come in the ambulance entrance unless you're in the ambulance. So next time you have to go around to the front." I'm laying there in the bed, and I got all this stuff stuck to me, and everything else. And I looked at her and I said, "Are you for real? Like, you're coming over here to add on to the moronic nonsense?" I was pissed. I said, you would have stood there and watched me die with absolutely no conscience. And I don't believe you obviously don't have any conscience, because you're here telling me next time I have to go around. Zero empathy, zero compassion for someone who was in a crisis. So, you really need to think about why you're here. I know why nobody on your team likes you. I heard those words coming out of my mouth, and I couldn't believe I said it, but she looks at me like, "What are you talking about? No need to be rude." And I said, "No need to be rude." I said, "You're talking to a person who's laying here at a crisis moment in their life has just had a heart attack. Go away. This isn't your unit. Go away. And she went away. There's a guy in the bed beside me, and he was a super entitled character. And he was insisting he wanted to get up into a room, and they're saying, well, they can't put, there's a queue. He said he'll pay cash. Now, this is Canada. It's a no cash system, supposedly. So yeah, and the doctors are there, and all this, and there's a big to-do with him and whatnot. And I'm just laying there. I was actually, settled, like the chest pain was settled and everything else. Scared, but settled. And he's telling him he'll pay cash, so they all negotiate, and then they let him go. They let him go up into a room, into a bed. Well, he was there before me, so I mean, it's not like I feel like I should have got the bed or anything like that. It goes on. He turns out that he's a radio personality with some obnoxious small town hillbilly opinion radio show and a great sense of entitlement. So as time went by, I guess I was in the emerge probably about 10 hours and several bladder emptying. I'll cut that out. Anyway, so they told me we're booking you in, you're going up to a room, and we're gonna book you for an angiogram, which, could be several days, 4, 5, 6 days before you get that. At least. The doctors will come and talk to you. So anyway, after 10 hours or 11 hours, they put me up in a room. It was all very nice and pleasant, and guess what? I get a bed beside Mr. Personality. And I hear them, and so he's gotten lots of attention. He's a narcissistic, and he's telling them how he needs to get into the angiogram right away. Right away. And he's talking. He'll pay them. Money doesn't talk with the doctors down doing the angiograms. I mean, like these people with the word escapes me right now. But they're first of all, I guess they've got scruples. So anyway, what happens is the doctors come up and talk to you. So the doctors are up there talking to him, and they're telling him, well, you got to wait. You can go down tomorrow morning. We get you in tomorrow morning. No cash involved. I mean, I remember when the doctor, he's quite indignant, and then rightfully so. He said, there's no cash, no money exchanging hands here. He said, we get you in the morning. He said, but you need to take these meds, and the guys, one of them is aspirin, right? So the guy says, oh, I can't take aspirin. I'm allergic to aspirin. The doctor's saying, well, we can't, you have to take the aspirin today and in the morning, or we can't do it, an angiogram. And the guy is insisting, no, I won't take aspirin. I refuse. It's my right, believe it or not, and this is before COVID is breaking loose. It's my right to refuse medication. And they said, well, you're right. It is your right. But refusing the medication means you're refusing the angiogram, the operation. And we can't do it without you taking the blood thinner. Well, he refuses. So they said, okay, well, that's fine. And we'll come and talk to you again. So anyway, in the meantime, they go out. 15 minutes later, nurse comes in and says, Ron, take these aspirin. You're going for an angiogram in the morning. You don't have to wait 5 days, 4 or 5 days. I said, oh, really? She said, yeah. So gave me the aspirin, and the doctors came in and talked to me about it and everything else, and I gave all of my permissions. And, I mean, these people are about to save my life. I'm not going to put any barriers in their way. So when it comes, get down there. They run through the caveats with me again. The doctor, he's a great guy. And he said, look, I'm not going to beat around the bush. If something goes wrong in there, or we're going to do whatever it takes to save you, or you are going to waive us doing that, and you may not come out of there alive. So what is your choice? I said, well, I picked door number 1. Do whatever you need to do. And so off we went. Stuck the thing in my wrist. Put the camera in there. Had a look. As soon as he put the dye in, like I say, it flushed. That was it, really. I came out of there. I was in the recovery room, and it was just like nothing ever happened. Like 20 minutes later, And as a matter of fact, I had to be transited from the hospital in Chilliwack to the hospital in Abbotsford for this process. And of course, then they have to send an ambulance to pick me up and take me back. Well, they did have several emergencies, and I ended up staying up in the recovery room for like 8 hours or whatever. And everything was, they were all gone, and the nurses were, had changed shift, and I was there on my own, and it was just like there was absolutely nothing wrong with me, and nothing had ever happened. So they basically left me on my own. I was fine and whatnot, and gave me lots of food. And finally, the ambulance comes back, and man, was that swank! I mean, that ambulance, whew, geez, I could live in that thing. And just the sweetest person attending me, energetic, friendly, and talkative person. So they got me back, and actually it was pretty great because basically they got me back in the evening. I stayed overnight, and then the next morning they told me I was going home. I was very, very, very lucky, and touch painted wood. I feel compassion for the people that go through so much more with heart attacks and come out with damage to their heart and with limitations on their lives that I'm very fortunate that I don't have to deal with. So thanks for coming. I really appreciate you being here, and I hope to see you again. Take care.